If you feel like your brain isn't working the way it used to after betrayal, that's because it is hijacked. I'm Leslie, therapist and creator of No Bullshit Healing. Today, we're breaking down what betrayal actually does to your brain because you can't rebuild yourself if you don't understand the damage. But before we jump in, I want to remind you that this video is for educational and inspirational only, and it is not considered replacement for therapy. Find you a therapist that can hold space for your healing. All right, let's get into it. So, betrayal is a neurological event. It's not just an emotional one. And that's why sometimes we have a hard time healing after betrayal because your brain interprets it as actually danger. The same circuitry that's used for survival. So, you've heard the terms fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So, here's what it hits it hits the amygdala, which goes into threat mode. It also hits your prefrontal cortex. For your clarity, logic, and decision making, it goes offline. Your vagus nerve shifts into hyper alert, cortisol spikes, and stays elevated. So, as a result of all of that, that's why you feel broken, foggy, reactive, exhausted, or you feel like you are just not yourself. It's because you have been biologically destabilized. You're not broken, okay? Betrayal doesn't just hurt. It also collapses your internal map. You lose your sense of reality, your sense of safety, your sense of who you were in that relationship, and your sense of what is true and not true. And so your brain is trying to reconcile those two conflicting realities. I thought I was safe versus I clearly was not safe. That collision creates rumination, replay loops, obsessive thinking, emotional whiplash, and feeling like you're going crazy. You're not. It's your brain trying to rebuild a shattered map. People love to say when you've been betrayed, I'm sure you've heard this from family, friends, just let it go, or why can't you just let this go? Your brain does not release danger until it feels safe again. You can't positive think, do affirmations, meditate your way out of survival response until you understand what it means to rebuild internal safety. And a lot of times what we do is we tell the story over and over and over again, but all that does is keep your brain in that loop. So what you need is regulation, grounding, predictability, truth, consistency, and space to process what's happened. Healing betrayal is not about you got to get to forgiveness. And I'll talk about that later in the Healing from Betrayal episodes. It's about restabilizing your brain. That is the very first step so you can think clearly again. So here's the real path forward, right? No fluff, no bullshit. Name the rupture. Stop minimizing it and call it what it is. Okay? I got betrayed. That person cheated on me. Regulate before you start to analyze it. Do some breath work, grounding, movement. Work with a therapist that's very familiar with somatic regulation because it gets your body out of threat mode. Rest is another one. If you're feeling shut down, allow yourself to rest. Rebuild some of that internal safety so that you can trust yourself again before you trust anyone else. That is the trick to learn to trust again after you've been betrayed. It's learning how to trust yourself. And when your body is able to rebuild internal safety, as a result of that, you will begin to trust your instincts again and trust your intuition. The next step would be to reconstruct your identity. Who are you now as a result? You're not going to be the same person. And, it's two paths forward, right? I can stay the version of me that doesn't work on healing and the internal safety. And I can be the version of me where I let pain rebuild me and I let pain help me grow. So, my question would be, as a result of this betrayal, who are you now? What do you know now? What do you refuse to ignore now? Slowly, steady integration. And let me repeat, slow and steady. We've gotten used to in our world where we want things really quickly, right? We just stop, we want fast food, we go through the drive-thru. Healing is not like that. Healing betrayal, particularly, is not linear, it's layered. So you've got to give your body and your brain time to integrate the lessons it's learned, learning how to create your own internal safety, learning what you like, and rebuilding your identity of who you are. If your brain feels hijacked, it's because betrayal has rewired your sense of safety. So, in the next episode, I'm going to do episode 3. I'm going to go straight into trauma bonding, why it keeps you stuck, even you know better that this isn't the relationship for you, and you keep going back and keep going back. And it happens to, unfortunately, it's not a gender thing, it happens to men and women. And I'm going to explain to you how to break that trauma bond. So, if this was helpful to you, please subscribe, share with someone who needs this kind of clarity. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for joining No Bullshit Healing. See you next time.